I want you to get together.
Up and up. And
Yeah.
yes, Ray of Sunshine. Paul mentioned this in his video, and I remember back in the day when I was watching back in, I thought it was like 2016, I think, the killer clown sightings everywhere. Absolutely, we remember that. Yep, I covered that
Yeah, the
back then.
2016. Yeah, the
Yeah,
2016 clown sightings. Yeah, that was one of the main things that kicked off this research for me. One
yeah,
of the many
yeah.
things, but it was one of those things where it's like, what on earth is happening here and why? And it was definitely a big part in getting me to uncover this idea that it's a veneration of the demons, of the Nephilim. Um, yeah, because when people dress up like clowns, and it's a phenomena about wearing masks in general. You know what I mean? When people become anonymous by hiding their face under makeup or a mask, then they are more inclined to do things they wouldn't ordinarily do. And that includes be violent, and do the horrible things. And it's something about putting on a mask where people lose themselves. So when people obviously, for example, Anonymous was a huge movement back in the day, wasn't it? It kind of died out a little bit, but that was about people wearing the Guy Fawkes mask, with the mustache and the big wide Joker-like smile, And I think a lot of people who wore that mask, were doing quite violent things and destroying places and going to protests because they were hidden behind this anonymity. And then I think we saw the same thing happen again, where people became quite vicious and awful versions of themselves during the crown virus situation, when everyone had to wear face masks, And I think we found the worst of mankind came out during that period, and we're still suffering the repercussions now. And I think masks played a large part in that. And I think it's different.
And if you worked in retail, you experienced it firsthand. Customers were ruder than ever through going through the retail lines.
Absolutely. Well, I did work in retail during that time. Yeah, it was horrible. It was truly horrible. People became terrible versions of themselves, and they felt empowered to treat their fellow humans like that because they wore the mask. And if you didn't wear the mask, you were scum. You deserved to die. That's literally it. You are a murderer if you do not wear a mask. You are enemy number one, public enemy number one. And they felt vindicated in their right to denigrate us, take away our rights, spit on us, accuse us of murder.
There's people who advocate that want to keep the mask not for medical purposes, just because they like wearing the mask.
Yeah, because there are those insecure people out there who don't want their face to be shown around the world, and in public, who are scared. And they want you to feel the same fear as well, and it's sad, isn't it? Like I said, if things change dramatically, and masks do that to people, So when people dress up like clowns, God knows what's going through the mind then. I mean, look at John Wayne Gacy as an example, a famous murderer who dressed like a clown as well. I think we know what spirit was possessing him now. It's interesting phenomenon, the mask wearing, definitely. It's a big part of this clown demon phenomena. It's definitely so. When the 2016 clown sightings happened, and people were wearing these clown masks, and they were walking around with knives and stuff. It's kind of my question I asked myself was, what on earth would possess a person to do this? And it clicked in my mind. Something is possessing people to do this, and that's where the research kind of kicked off.
Your question was definitely the answer. You thought,
well, that's what I mean.
Possess someone to do this? And yes, exactly. What would possess someone to do this?
Yeah, and obviously the answer was a lot more literal than I thought it was going to be. And it was a funny, interesting time.
Those were strange times back then. That's when the black goo. I mean, that's when all this was being talked about: the crazy clowns, the transhumanism, the black goo.
Well, the interesting thing is
2015 to 2017 was like wild.
Well, after the clown sightings. So in 2014, a film was released called Clown, and it was about a man who finds a clown costume in the attic. He puts it on because he needs to be a clown for his daughter's wedding, for his daughter's birthday party. So he becomes a clown for his daughter's birthday party. Then he finds out he can't take off the costume. it's fused to his skin. And then, I know, right? And then it gets to the point where he discovers that what he's wearing is the skin of a demon that looks like a clown called a cloyne in Swedish mythology. Right? This is completely made up. This isn't a real Swedish mythology. This is made up for the film. The cloyne is not a real thing documented in history. But for the film, they made up this demon called the cloyne, which looked like a clown, which ate children. And the wearer who wears the skin has to eat 5 children, and the demon will let him go. And the film's about this man struggling to battle him.
Doesn't that tie in perfectly to they want what they can't have, that taste, that feel, that
they do, and they
just
do
give
it
me
by
5 children, just let me taste 5 children again, and
through so it's a literal form of possession. So in real life, it's not quite that obvious. It's more subtle. You don't know you're being possessed usually. It's hidden.
Right.
But in this film, it's the guy puts on the clown skin and suddenly a demon's taken over him. And that was the first thing that kind of referenced this. Obviously, there'd been Stephen King's It in the past, in the old film. But then in 2016, so 2 years after that film got released, clown sightings happened and people were dressing up like clowns, going to public places and scaring the hell out of people. And then not long after that, It was released, the remake, another clown-related film. And then not long after that, it was all during the time Trump got elected and all sorts of stuff was going on in the world, crazy things, massive divides politically being made in the houses and the homes of not everyday people. The phrase clown world blew up. It became huge. And everyone was describing the world as full of clown-like people, especially with the rise of liberals and the multicolored collective, we'll call them, the rise of the alphabet community, all this sort of stuff. And we found, obviously, people were using the phrase clown world. The world was going insane. Things were happening which are complete and total clownish behavior and foolishness, So I find it interesting that 2016 period, the 2014, 2016, 2017 period, the clown thing really kicked off. And it became a really prevalent meme in the minds of everybody. Suddenly, clowns are at the forefront of consciousness, And I don't think it's a coincidence when you understand what the clown really represents, Like I said, we can probably get into it on your channel more so than I'm allowed to on mine, because I'll just get taken down. But community trying to read books to your children, and you look at the way these people dress and look, and you consider the aesthetics I've talked about, how the demons looked, the Nephilim looked. I think we, again, understand the spirit truly possessing these people to do these foolish, clownish, hideous things. You look at the average SJW.
That's really my biggest thing is, like, I get how they want to, how they want to perform in front of the children. I get that, okay? But what I don't get is where the parents feel the need to bring their kids there. That's the part that always like trips me up. Like, as a parent, I would never take my child to something like that, but they actually are compelled to bring their kids to these things, and that's there has to be some form of demonology for that to occur. That's not something a normal looking over the care of your child parent would normally do.
I mean, just look back in all ancient history, and there always seems to be the willing parents who are willing to sacrifice their children for the betterment of their quote unquote society. I mean, Incas, Mayans, I mean, it goes on and on.
It's just Moloch all over again, isn't it? Sacrificing your children to the altar.
Whatever name you want to use for it, it goes. It's been gone by so many names over.
It's Baal, it's Moloch, like you said. It's giving your children to the iron bull, isn't it? And sacrificing them for clout. And I mean, these women, these parents take their children to these things for that Instagram post to show how tolerant they are. Exactly. To prop up their own image, they defile their own children. It's truly a sight to behold, and it's sad, and it's clown world stuff. It's clownish, it's foolishness at the highest form. it's based in vanity. Let's get all ecclesiastical about this. It's all vanity at the end of the day. It's
vanity and pride.
That,
So
exactly.
vanity and pride.
That's all it comes down to. And again, demons are the Nephilim were the epitome of vanity and pride.
They taught vanity. They taught makeup. They taught all about vanity. They taught exactly. They taught vanity and pride.
They truly considered themselves the God-given rulers of the world. They thought they were brilliant, and they loved themselves beyond belief, and they still want to feel that way, to feel venerated like gods, looked upon as something fantastic and wonderful. So I think that's why they have possessed certain people in certain positions of social hierarchy. I think people in the trans community right now are considered the most untouchable, stunning and brave people of the entire world to the brainwashed masses, and they get venerated and treated like gods, all the while looking how they used to look, like clowns. And it's
and
we don't wrestle against
children are offered up to them, and
exactly, we don't wrestle
for them and parties, and
just like the old days. There's nothing new under the sun. We don't wrestle against flesh and blood at the end of the day. We wrestle against principalities, powers, spiritual wickedness in high places, and that manifests physically, through things like this. And it's the spirit behind it that's the true problem, the true enemy. And the issue is the biggest. I think the biggest issue is, the majority of people who do these things don't understand it's spiritual in nature. They believe it's themselves making these choices, and they stand by them vehemently, not understanding they're being manipulated and influenced to say and do these things. And it takes only somebody who's had their eyes open to truly understand just how easily malleable we are as people, and how careful we need to be about what we say and what we dress like and what we do and what we listen to, and the people we choose to spend our time with and put our consciousness and effort towards. It's up to us to be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. We have to test every spirit, because we're in the middle of a war. We're in a war zone, and not many people, other than the very elect few who have the eyes to see and hear these things, know that they're in the middle of a war or a battlefield, and are just cannon fodder. They're just there to be used and abused and thrown aside by the enemy easily, and they willingly let themselves be used and abused by the enemy because they don't realize that's what's happening to them. They say it was my choice. It's a shame. It's truly a shame. And that's not to say humans don't have free will and to get into all that stuff. People do have to take responsibility for their own actions, of course, and some people do choose to do things they consciously know are wrong. But I think every human, no matter how far they're gone, will always have God there as a conscience, the Holy Spirit within them, telling them, you are sinning. You're missing the mark here.
Yeah, everybody has their own built-in moral compass, so to speak.
Yeah, obviously everyone will choose to do bad things. I think every human does know when they're doing something they shouldn't be doing. I think they know that. The choice is whether they continue to do it or not. And I'm not saying it's easy to make the right choice. It isn't always easy to make the right choice, but we still know whether we're doing that or not. I think a lot of people just suppress it these days. I think drugs have a big impact in helping people suppress their conscience. We're living in one of the most drugged up generations to ever exist. Pharmakia runs rife.
Pharmakia to the fullest degree.
Exactly, which is why we're told, to be sober. It's not because God doesn't like us to have fun. It's because a sober mind can't be so easily manipulated or fooled into what they're truly doing, as good or bad. They'll know the spirit. They'll know whether or not what they're doing is sinning or not, But if you're sober, if you're under the influence of some kind of spirit, if you want to get symbolic about alcohol, let's say, then that spirit will take over, and you won't be you will make mistakes, and
yeah, I can
you know,
truly say that I've witnessed that firsthand. I've seen alcoholism take full root in people and totally change not only the way that they look physically, but the way that they appear to you spiritually as well.
absolutely. I mean, in the chat right now is Larry. Obviously, I want to shout out to him. He's been a long time subscriber to my channel, and we have a long discussion on my channel about his experiences with alcoholism as well, and the demonization that came with it, from actual spirits. And you should go listen to it if you haven't already. But Larry's story is indicative of many people's stories, and I've had victims of suicide in my own family who were not of a sober mind, and were due to heavy drug use and alcoholism played a large factor in them leading to taking their own life. And I believe they were a heavily demonized individual looking back now. And obviously these things are gateways to allow these entities into your body, and they've been described by many people as energetic vampires in a way. They kind of get their food and sustenance from our suffering in a kind of way. So it's a vicious circle, and again, pharmakeia, drugs, play a huge role in this. It's witchcraft at its finest, and like I said, we live in one of the most heavily drugged up societies to ever exist. Now, that isn't to say there isn't space for medicines to help cure illnesses. I'm not saying that's not the case.
Yeah, we take these psychoactive chemicals. We willingly hand out our hand and ask for them, and then we are given, and then we stare into our little black mirror and look at all the images that AI wants to display us. How are we going to win?
I mean, well, I think it's just every individual has to take the time to step back every now and then and just pay attention and realize that, as bad as things are, it's all a construct, and the negative world around us is designed for us to pay attention to it. And as long as we're focusing on it, we can live in that state of fear. I think at the end of the day, this is God's creation. We are God's creation, and God has given us a life to live within it. I
remember when life was a Mountain Dew commercial.
Yeah, we know when everything was great. Yeah. Well, it's all about your perspective. You can still live your life.
Yeah.
And not choose to dwell on or focus on the evil around us. You should be aware of it, sure. But at the end of the day, you have a life to live. You have a family to care for. You have work.
It seems like there's two realities. There's the reality that's 3D in front of me that I can physically hand and touch, and then there's the reality of the world around me based off the information that I receive through my little handheld device.
Exactly. Yeah, there is two worlds, and both are just as real as the other in some respect. It's up to you how much you want to dwell on one or the other. But I think God has laid out kind of a path for everyone. I don't want to get too metaphysical about free will again. Now it's a tough discussion, but I think there's a life intended for you as a God-given being that God would like you to follow, which would be best for you. And to get there and to live it, you have to put in the work, but it's there ready for you, ask and you will receive type of thing.
And it's a lifetime. It's a lifetime of accumulation. I mean, as you grow throughout your life, the opportunities for you to use your real gifts and enjoy life to its full potential do arrive. It's what you make of those opportunities as they're presented to you, and the choices you make along the way. Because the choices don't keep coming. Like you get a window of opportunity. It's whether you seize it or not. More often than not, you know what I'm trying to say.
Absolutely, yeah. But God opens doors every day in everyone's life for them to go through it and gain the benefits. But I think the misunderstanding, I think a lot of people who don't understand Christians kind of have that argument of, how can there be a God with all this suffering in the world? And I said, and my response really is, I said God will give you a life worth living. I didn't say He'd give you a life without suffering. It's life.
I mean, not even Jesus promised that.
I know,
He pretty much promised a life of suffering. So
exactly, life is suffering. It's a big part of it, and you learn through it. Without it, you wouldn't grow.
Okay, I'm taking a 3-minute break. I'll be back in 3 minutes.
all right. And another good thing to point out is, and I'm living proof of this, is Father will never give up on you. I mean, so
No.
if you're not currently following Jesus or not a Christian or whatever, and you just like to tune in to hear the conversation, that's cool. But don't ever think you've gone too far. Trust me. Trust me on this one. Go listen to my testimony. Don't ever think you've gone too far. Father never gives up on you. He's always given you that opportunity. Like Paul said, it's just a matter of we do have the free will. We have to choose it. He don't force anyone to do anything, but He does have the best life laid out for you. Maybe not the prettiest, maybe not the most comfortable, maybe, the way we look at best, maybe not what you might get, but I guarantee you, if you stick on that path and you grow more and more every day, take the opportunity Father gives you and grab them, But if you don't, if you're still undecided, don't worry. He'll reach out again. He's always reaching out. It's just a matter of turning around and looking.
I think a lot of people have the idea, don't they, that God's given up on them, and they feel as though, what's the point? I think the truth is they've given up on God in that respect. I don't think God ever truly stops being that inner voice, that Holy Spirit, that guiding spirit to lead you to make the right choices. I think the problem is those choices can be scary for a lot of people. They're not easy choices to make.
They're terrifying. They're terrifying. When you truly get born again and get right down to it, it is terrifying to realize how much truth you thought you knew that it has been nothing but an absolute lie. I mean, that's a terrifying thing to admit to yourself, again, because of our pride and because of our arrogance. We're humans. We hate to admit we're wrong, and to admit we're wrong about something so huge. Yes, that's terrifying.
No, I agree. I mean, I've been presented with some very hard decisions in my life, and even I have found it difficult to take that leap of faith and just trust that it's the right choice to make. God is screaming at me repeatedly, you need to leave where you're working right now. It will kill you. And He sent vicious people at me to literally prove to me that this is a dangerous place. It's no good for you spiritually or mentally or physically. But obviously the fear of the unknown, of having a family to support, of needing the income and all this kind of thing, you know what I mean? It makes you stay in this place that's destroying your soul. And this is just one example of my most recent leaps of faith. But I took it upon myself to quit that job and just leave, and just that's it, leave it behind, and actually build my own company, something I can be proud of, that I can call my own and be my own boss with my wife, And it was scary. It was completely going into the void of the unknown. But I had faith. I went into it thinking, okay, God, let's do this. Let's see what happens, And it worked. It's working, should I say, so far. It's had its ups and downs and hiccups, but it's off to a good start, and I asked myself, why didn't I do this sooner? And God had shown me plenty of times over the past 5 years, 6 years, that this is what I need to do, but I just didn't listen. I kept going and going, and more horrible things kept happening to me as a result of staying in that place. And I believe, He sent those horrible things to me to make me suffer there, to realize this is not where you're supposed to be. And I think where I'm supposed to be is right here, right now, talking to you guys. You know, I think where I'm supposed to be is saying these things on my YouTube channel, which I couldn't do working there because they knew about the channel and told me I would get fired if I didn't get rid of it. You know, I think I'm supposed to be doing this, and I seem to be reaching people and helping people in ways I don't understand. But whatever it is, that's kind of where I've been put and told to be and do. I never thought this is what my life would become or be, but it's where I've ended up, you know. And I feel like I am aligned with his plan now. And go on. Sorry.
I was going to say, and I think, at least from my experience, and now I hear your experiences, this is never where you thought you would be. I myself never thought I would be on a YouTube channel talking to people. People just heard my testimony or that know me a little knows I was never really a people person. I was always quiet. I stuck to myself. Never. So if someone would have said someday I'd be doing live shows with guests and co-host and talking to people, and I'd have been like, yeah, okay. It seems that a lot of times our Father's plans for our life, or what he wills us to do for him, definitely takes us out of our comfort zones, at least from my experience and obviously your experience. And I think that's why we forget it's called a leap of faith. You know, it's not an easy step. It's not, I mean, it's tough, but he's always there to see you through, but it's called a leap of faith. And once you take that leap of faith, as I know in my life from living it, from the time I was unemployed for years, and Father never left me down or go hungry or without anything that I needed for his will, including internet to do these silly videos. Somehow, when I had zero income for many years, everything got paid. And that's a whole testimony in itself, but it's the absolute truth. Don't ask me how. I can't explain it, but it happened. Sometimes I would literally open my wallet and there would be enough there to pay the bill. That's all I can say. Make of it what you will, whatever. I'm just telling you what happened. And as you see, you took the leap of faith. You quit. You're going to start. You said, all right, Father, let's do this. Let's do it. That's all he likes. Father longs to hear that more than anything. Trust me. And he loves honesty. If something goes wrong, don't be afraid of saying, why don't I, hey, he loves honesty. If something upsets you, let him know it upsets you, But yeah, he'll always see you through. Just take that leap of faith. I'm living proof. Paul's living proof. There's thousands of living proofs out there.
Yeah, we all talk to each other online. We all have a little community, and we're trying to build something good here, I think. And I think this is the problem. A lot of people out there do feel alone, especially when researching things like this and looking into the truth culture, and the many topics within it. Every topic is life-shattering. It's paradigm-shifting. Every topic is a deep, dark rabbit hole that sends you down into an information well, which you could easily drown in if you don't find a way to keep your head above water, And a lot of people do learn all of these truths and go through the process and feel very
and
isolated.
a lot of times people get lost in that specific one and never make it to all of the others.
There is that too. Yeah. Definitely. I've seen many people who have just dwelt on one thing, and that's the ultimate truth, and nothing else matters from there on. I like to know all of them and every one of them, and bear them all there as possibilities, so I don't be fooled when the truth does come out, or I'll be ready when whatever the truth revealed actually is, or whatever. But you do got people, especially if people like flat earthers, for example. I'm not saying there's no validity to what they're saying, but what I'm saying is there are other alternative cosmologies out there that they could be looking into as well. And it does seem to fully engulf their mind. It's all encompassing to the point where a lot of them do become insufferable people to kind of talk to and be around. And it's a shame. I'm not saying the information is invalid, but people can really lose themselves.
Yeah, it becomes all-consuming. Yeah,
absolutely, and not even just the flat earthers, although that is a good example. But I mean, look at back in the let's see, how should I say this? Well, I don't care about YouTube. The 9/11 days. Look at all. I mean, that I, for one, was very stubborn in my, you will understand, you know, I mean, it can catch us all. We can all get caught in any kind of trap. So, yeah, we all got to be wary of that as to putting anything before the Father. No more important truth than Jesus Christ and what he said and taught. It's that simple. So if anything you put above that, if you're more worried about fighting for a flat earth or a 911 conspiracy or anything, then you need to take a break and check yourself and maybe get back into a right standing, you know. That's why we're told to test ourselves and see.
Yeah. I think it's also good. I think it's a good idea for people to take a break sometimes. You know, like I said, you can be in this for a long time to the point where you realize you haven't talked to your friends or family in years, and you haven't really done anything to further your life in a long time. You know, and before you know it, you can be 5 years into this stuff and still be where you were 5 years ago, and that's not the plan that God has laid out for you at the end of the day. You know, like I said, know the information, but don't let the information become your God at the end of the day. There's stuff to be done. There's work to be done. You know, get out there and live your life and don't squander it and waste it dwelling on all the negative is kind of what my repeat message on the channel. And also, like you said, you know, you get these people who dwell on one subject and do become, well, they look crazy at the end of the day. I hate saying it because, you know, I guess I'm one of them at the end of the day, but it's not a good look. Okay, and if you want to bring people into knowing the truth, you have to be an ambassador for the truth. You have to represent us. You have to be somebody people can come to and listen to and not think is crazy. You know, you need to be professional in a sense. You need to present this information carefully and delicately so people will listen to you and not think you're crazy. And there's ways to do that, and it comes with practice and time, you know, and I feel like a lot of people aren't delicate enough with the truth movement stuff, and then they handle this information haphazardly. And too many people look at them and go, "Nah, you're crazy. I don't want anything to do with this information because you look crazy." So it's kind of, you know, people don't buy products; they buy the person selling the product at the end of the day. And if you're going to try and sell,
very well said, because a lot of times that's what'll happen if you're so excited to present the information and you get so used to presenting it over and over and over again that it becomes a root. It becomes like you're making connections way faster than the person you're presenting the information to is able to actually comprehend those connections in that same quick fashion as you're making them, because you're so well versed on all of your points. But a lot of this stuff, when you're dealing with cognitive dissonance like that, it has to be spoon fed with a baby spoon.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
another thing.
I want you to get together.